When I was growing up, my family spent the summer between my first and second grade years. So I think, does that make you 7? Kind of lost track of. There's a teacher in here who knows exactly. Yeah, okay. I think it was 7. So the summer between my first and second grade years of school, my family spent the entire summer in Dallas, Texas. Now we were from Michigan, Ann Arbor, Michigan, so way up here. We were all the way down here in Dallas. What took us there was that my dad is a carpenter, and so in the 1980s, the Michigan housing market wasn't great, but Dallas was booming even back then, hasn't stopped. I just heard recently actually that the Dallas metro area has more people in it than the entire state of Missouri, 2 million more people. No thank you to that traffic. But even back in 1984, Dallas was growing a ton. And so work was slow up here, and my aunt and uncle had moved down to Dallas a couple of years before. My uncle was also a carpenter, and my dad said, maybe we'll just try this out for a summer. And so we drove all the way down to Dallas, and we got to live with my aunt and uncle and spent the entire summer there, which for me as a kid was so much fun because we never went anywhere. So this was like a great adventure. And even more than that, I'm the only boy in my family. 2 sisters, grew up in the country where they had no neighbors. And suddenly I'm living with my 2 boy cousins in a neighborhood that was like filled with other boys. This was my Tom Sawyer summer. Or for those of you, if that reference is too old, it was 1984. This was my Stranger Things summer. Minus the monsters, no monsters. But like it was so much fun, just boys running around everywhere. We had bikes, we'd ride our bikes all day long, all over Dallas. No one knew where we were because it was the 1980s and parents didn't care. And so we do that, and there was a neighbor who had this new game system. I had never seen it before called the Atari 2600. And there was a game called Frogger that we would play. So amazing. And there were scorpions in Dallas, and so we'd catch scorpions and put them in a jar with black widow spiders to see who'd win, like all kinds of boy stuff. But one of the things that I remember about that summer in particular, it's an odd memory to stay with me, but my aunt and uncle, they had this rock bed next to their driveway, just like all these like pretty rainbow river rocks or lake rocks. And one day, I think we started off playing archaeologist. We got our dad's hammers, and we went out and we were like started breaking the rocks to see if we could find fossils. That's how it started. And then we noticed that some of the rocks were kind of like crystalline, they were sparkly, glimmery inside. And so one day we got this idea, like maybe there are diamonds in these rocks. Maybe there's treasure in here. And so we spent the rest of the day with those hammers breaking every rock in my aunt's rock bed, which you can bet she was real happy about. And I still say they should have watched us better. You helicopter parents today, this would never happen. This is I'm telling you, it's a true story. What I want you to think about today, and what I want to ask you is, have you ever pursued something in your life, spent a lot of time and effort and energy trying to find something, uncover something valuable, but in the end, after all that effort, all you ended up with was a pile of crushed gravel and maybe a blistered hand? See, that's what we're talking about in this new series. The series is called Fool's Gold. And if you don't know Fool's Gold, it's actually a reference to a naturally occurring mineral in the ground called pyrite. I've got a raw piece here, and I'll kind of hold it up here by this refined picture here. You can see it's really sparkly. You can even see it catching the light here. It glimmers. And yet it is not real gold. And you can just imagine back in the gold rush days, someone mining and panning for gold and getting really excited, thinking they've struck it rich and got a big pile of pyrite. But this is actually not worth very much at all. I bought this off of eBay for like $6 or something, and it was late. It was a whole mess. But anyway, it's not actually worth very much. It glimmers, but it's not actually gold. And so as we start this new series, what I want you to do is to think honestly about your own life. Where in the past have you pursued things that you thought would be valuable, and yet in the end, they weren't? It was fool's gold. Or maybe we can even be a little more insightful and introspective in our lives today, and we can start to think about, hey, what might I be pursuing right now? And I'm going after it, lots of effort, lots of energy, lots of intensity, believing that it might be valuable, but maybe is this pursuit leading me to something that's real treasure, or in the end, is it just gonna be fool's gold? It's a hard question. To help you start to think about that question, I wanna introduce you to a guy named Solomon. Solomon's a guy from the Bible, but you didn't hear about him in the Easter story. He actually lived 900 years before Easter. He was a king of Israel. And Solomon was really well known for a few things. But the way I want you to think about Solomon today is I want you to think about him as the Elon Musk of his time. For starters, Solomon was really rich, like the richest guy of his era. And so even other kings and queens would come and they wanted to come and witness the wealth of Solomon. He was also a guy who was very entrepreneurial, and he had all these projects going. We'll see about that in just a minute. Solomon's also a guy who had a lot of children by a lot of different wives, but I'm not gonna talk much about that. The thing that really set Solomon apart, though, was that he was given a gift by God of supernatural wisdom. And so he lived his life with this wisdom, this ability to examine his own life. And then he wrote his reflections down, kind of like a first-person diary, and those are still recorded for us today to read from, to learn from. It's called the book of Ecclesiastes. It's a part of the Bible in the Old Testament. And we're gonna look today at Ecclesiastes chapter 2. Again, these words of Solomon. Solomon says, I said to myself, come now, I will test you with pleasure to find out what is good. But that also proved to be meaningless. So any like scientific people, very empirical people here today? Come on, I see engineers here. I certainly hope you're scientific if you're engineering things. So Solomon's, he's a very scientific, empirical guy. And so he starts off this chapter with an abstract. He's like, here's my hypothesis. I'm gonna see what forms of pleasure. Can pleasure make your life good? Can pleasure make your life good? That's what I'm gonna test here. And he gives us the results right in the first verse. You don't even have to read the rest if you don't want. He says, but I found out that it doesn't. Pleasure doesn't make your life good. It's actually pretty meaningless in the end. But for those of us who aren't satisfied, here's his experiment. Laughter, I said, is madness. And what does pleasure actually accomplish? I tried cheering myself with wine. Anybody tried it? Kind of works for a little while, as long as you don't have too much. Or embracing folly, just kind of empty, I've been on this Adam Sandler movie binge lately. I don't know why. It's just kind of fun for a minute, but it doesn't add a whole lot to your life. He says, notice this, he says, my mind's still guiding me with wisdom. So I was doing that, and this is what's different again about Solomon. He's gifted by God with this wisdom that enables him not to get caught up, swept up in the things that he's trying out. He's able to keep some distance and some perspective that we can learn from. He said, I wanted to see what was good for people to do under the heavens during the few days, under the skies, under the few days that we have in our lives. He goes on and he says, so I tried this. I undertook great projects. I built houses for myself. And I planted vineyards. I made gardens and parks. Remember I told you he's entrepreneurial, had all these big things going. I planted all kinds of fruit trees in them. I made reservoirs to water groves of flourishing trees. Now we may look at this and be like, whoa, but I'll tell you what, we as middle-class suburbanites living in our time, we're not too far off from Solomon here, are we? Because what do we spend our weekends doing? Yard work. I mean, this is a great time in St. Louis. Like the grass is emerald green. Anyone already been out there mowing it and that nice diamond pattern? Just making it look pretty, planting things, flowers coming up, like taking in all of that. I mean, it's really satisfying to see, to work into that and see that. Or I've been over to some of your houses and some of you, he's got reservoirs. Some of you have water features that rival the fountains of the Bellagio. So impressive. And why do we do that? Like, why do we work on our houses and our yards? Because they add some beauty. They're kind of relaxing once you get all the work done. They tend to add some value. And he says, so I did that stuff too. At an utmost scale. I bought male and female slaves and had other slaves who were born into my house. Now, thankfully, we don't do this anymore. And biblical slavery is kind of a different thing than the history of slavery in our country, but we don't own people. We don't think that's right. And so take away the morality of this statement for a minute. And I just want to ask you, anybody have a Roomba? Poor robot vacuum doing all your work for you? Yeah. Or anybody got Alexa on lock, just making Alexa or Chat GPT do all of your dirty work. Like for us, it's not about people anymore. And the point of this is Solomon had all these people who were just kind of waiting on him, taking care of things, a life of luxury, ease, comfort, and convenience. And again, we're not that far off. He goes on, he says, I also owned more herds and flocks, cars and trucks than anyone in Jerusalem before me. I amassed silver and gold, stocks and crypto for myself and the treasures of kings and provinces. I acquired male and female singers. Spotify? And a harem as well. Not gonna touch it. The delights of a man's heart, he says. All of these things I acquired. But look at how he starts to build this. He says, I became greater by far than anyone in Jerusalem before me. In all of this, my wisdom stayed with me. So again, I didn't go numb. I didn't lose myself in this. I kept my perspective, which is something that is very, very hard to do. I denied myself nothing my eyes desired. I refused my heart no pleasure. I went all at it like he's the epitome of a work hard, play hard kind of guy. My heart took delight in all my labor, and this was the reward for all of my toil. And here's the grand conclusion again. Yet when I surveyed all that my hands had done, all of that work, all that I had toiled to achieve, everything was meaningless. It was the chasing after the wind. In the big picture, nothing was gained under the sun. In other words, Solomon's saying, you know what, I went after it. I ran this experiment to its full. I wanted to see, does pleasure, does comfort, does luxury, does it make your life good? Does it add meaning and richness to your life? And he's like, at the end of the day, the verdict is, not really. It's fool's gold. It doesn't have the power to make your life actually rich. Now, this may be a little hard for us to believe because like we hear, really, really wealthy people talk this way sometimes, like, oh, all of the, the beach home and the mountain home and the cars and the jet, like this doesn't make your life good, guys. And I don't know about you, when I hear people talk that way, I'm sort of like, I might like to try it out though. Just see for myself. And our lives may be different than Solomon's in a lot of ways, but as I already told you, I think as middle-class suburbanites living in our present day, at least when it comes to comfort and luxury and convenience and ease, I think we might have Solomon beat. Think about it. Like Solomon did not have central heating and central air conditioning that he could control from his phone. Right, if he wanted to cool off, he had to have people come wave things at him. Not as efficient as my air conditioner, I guarantee. And Solomon, he didn't have these taps where you just like flip a lever and suddenly you have 140-degree water, hot water coming out like magic. Like he didn't have that. He didn't have running water, indoor plumbing. Solomon didn't have elastic waistbands or memory foam. Two of the greatest inventions in terms of comfort. Right, so we can look at Solomon and be like, oh yeah, well maybe it's easy for you to say. We've got more comfort and ease than ancient kings. And has it made us happier? Has it made our lives fuller? Yet why do we find ourselves still pursuing just a little bit more, thinking that just maybe in the next remodel, the next acquisition, the next purchase, the next thing, like suddenly it's all gonna fall into place and we're gonna have a sense of richness and fullness that we all long for. Like what is that about? Now I wanna back up for a second and set the record straight. Having a comfortable life isn't bad. The last thing on earth I would wanna be is a first century peasant. Like, that's a hard life. And I think sometimes we can romanticize a hard life, and we really shouldn't. We should give thanks for the things that we have. Like if you're a first century peasant, that means that you're working all day just to try to feed your family for that day, and you're hoping it'll be enough. If you're a first century peasant, you're having a whole bunch of kids because you need them to survive, and you hope that at least half of them will survive to adulthood. If you're a first century peasant, you're constantly on the lookout for warlords and raiders who are gonna come in, and whatever wealth you've amassed for yourself, they're gonna take it and they're gonna run away with it. If you're a first century peasant, if you do pretty well and you take good care of your health, you might live to the ripe age of 45. You wonder why in the ancient world people were so, they revered their elders so much? It's because they hardly ever saw an elder. Like if life got you to your old age, people looked at you like you must be blessed by God. It was absolutely miraculous. So this is not a message about let's roll back the clock on progress and let's just go back to bare bones existence where we have to chop our own wood and grow our own food and churn our own butter. When I was looking for fool's gold, I found butter churns galore on eBay. I'm like, who is churning their own butter and why? The stuff at Schnucks is just as good. Don't fall for the trap. Your life will not be better if you churn your own butter. I just don't believe it. I don't believe it. It's not true. See, this is not like saying oh, so a comfortable life is meaningless, so a hard life must be good. Automatically, that's not the point. What this is a cautionary tale that when we pursue, hear me, when we pursue comfort as our highest priority, when we imagine that just a little bit more comfort is going to add more richness to our lives, and we keep just leveling up our level of comfort, because someday we're going to get to the point where life is going to be rich and full. When we do that, we are digging for fool's gold. And more, what the Bible calls this is not fool's gold. What the Bible calls this is idolatry. Idolatry. I don't have a lot of time to talk about this today, but we're going to unpack this in the course of the series. Idolatry, idols. It's kind of a weird word. And for us, if we know anything about idolatry or idols, maybe you think first about people that you admire or people that you would emulate. This is not for me, by the way. But when my daughters were growing up, Miley Cyrus, Hannah Montana, they loved her. They thought she was the coolest. And so, some might even say oh yeah, that person is my idol. I want to be just like them. Maybe that's the context we have for the word idols. Or maybe we've actually been to places where people worship and make sacrifices and offerings to statues. And that's what we think of when we think of idols. In the course of the series, we're talking about this differently. When we talk about idolatry, and when the Bible talks about idolatry, it's not talking about those things. It's actually talking about stuff like this. Things that we would look at as actually pretty good things. And here's what I want you to know. The problem is not having these things. Having these things is not necessarily the problem. The problem is the pursuit of these things, as if these things are finally going to give your life a sense of meaning. Pursuing these things, imagining that if I can just get these things, then I'm finally gonna feel like I am somebody. I'm finally gonna be somebody. Idolatry is not just having these things, but pursuing these things and learning to fear, love, and trust these things even better, more than God. And again, you look at these things and you're like some good desserts and rich foods, that's not necessarily bad. Having a dream job, that's not a bad thing. Or down here, I see this a married couple holding hands with some baby shoes and dreaming of having a partner to share life with and dreaming of raising a family together. That's not a bad thing if God gives you that. A stable society that works well, that's not a bad thing. And yet, the danger of all of these things, it's not bad to have these things, but if we pursue these things, if we chase after these things, imagining that they'll give us something, they'll give us the richness we're longing for. If we chase after these things, imagining that all of our hopes and dreams will be fulfilled and pinning our hopes and dreams on these things. Here's the problem with idolatry. If we do that, it's not like it's gonna make God mad or God's jealous or God's some diva who wants all the credit and wants all the attention. We get this wrong all the time. The problem with these things, the reason God hates idolatry, the reason God despises idols is because if you make these the ultimate things in your life, you will end up heartbroken. And your Father in heaven, he loves you so much, he's trying to spare you from a broken heart. I've seen it all the time. And even in my own life, marriage and family, it was an idol for me. I came from a family that was pretty broken, and I just thought, when I grow up, I'm gonna get married and I'm gonna have kids, and that's gonna heal me. And I've said this before, that being a father and being a husband is the richest experience of my life. Like, humanly speaking, it's added so much value, but guess what? It did not heal me. And the more weight and expectation I bring to my wife and to my kids to fix something inside of me, guess what? The harder and more difficult and more tenuous all of those relationships become. If you make any of these things into your ultimate pursuit, you pin your hopes and dreams on them, they will break your heart. Listen to how Jesus put it in John chapter 10. Jesus said, "Very truly, I tell you, I am the gate for the sheep." We're the sheep. We're gonna come back to this gate idea in a minute. He says, "All who have come before me, though, everyone else who's made promises of life and fullness, they're only thieves and robbers. But the sheep have not listened to them." Maybe we have a little. "I am the gate. Whoever enters through me will be saved. They will come in and go out and find pasture. The thief comes," everyone who's come before me, all those other things and people making promises of fulfillment, they actually only come to steal and kill and destroy. But I have come, Jesus says, that they may have life and have it to the full. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. Why does God warn us about idols? Because in all of the empty promises and all of the promises of richness, all those things can actually do, they can't add to our life. They can only steal, they can kill, they can destroy. We can spend our whole lives chasing after them, and all we end up with is a pile of crushed gravel and a blistered hand. So we're gonna unpack this over the course of the series, but I wanna ask you today, is maybe comfort an idol for you? A life of luxury, convenience, ease, is that kind of your dream? Like, if life could just get easier, then I would be happy. If life was more comfortable, then I'd be happy. I realize for me it is in my life. My wife and I were living in the same house for almost 17 years, and we've renovated every part of it. And I do a lot of the work, or all the work, and it's kind of fun, and it's a good hobby. We like to take care of things, but there's something I think that's like, oh, if we just get the house right, then everything's gonna be right in here. I remember specifically 11 years ago, I think it was, at least a decade ago, we undertook a renovation of our primary bathroom. So our house was built in 1984, and there's this giant, I think acrylic, I don't know, some kind of plasticky tub in there. Is giant, like with jets. And this thing's so big that there's not a hot water heater in the world that could fill this tub with hot water. So it's kind of pointless. Like, you could never actually use it. And there was a shower head in there, and it was just kind of a little awkward. We were like, whatever. But then the tub like kind of started to sink or something, and it was like leaking water. And of course, it was 1984's house, so there was carpet all over the bathroom, which we know is a great idea. And so this carpet was getting wet, and the carpet was getting mildewy, and we kept trying to dry it. And then it was getting kind of moldy, and we're like, we can't have mold in our house. And so I did a heroic thing. I ripped up all the carpet in the bathroom, and it was just like subfloor, which my wife was real happy about. So we're like, finally, we've got to fix this bathroom. We've got to fix the problem. And so since I did most of the work along with my dad, we saved up some money. We're like, let's make this really, really nice. So we ripped out the tub, and we tiled in a nice walk-in shower with a rainfall shower head, and not just a rainfall shower head, but another shower head, because you haven't taken a shower really in your life if you haven't done it with two shower heads. And we had heated floors, and we put in like one of those toilets with like a bidet and a heated seat. It's like so nice. And the day came when it was finally done. After months of grueling labor, it was finally done. And Jocelyn like brought the kids into the bathroom to see it. And like I had the water running to prove it all worked. And Jocelyn was bringing the kids to the bathroom to see it so they could know that it was finally safe to approach their dad again. That I was done being a grump about this project. And my kids, again, this is a long time ago, so my kids were much younger, and they're looking around, and they were just like so impressed. Their eyes are big. I remember specifically Aria, she's my middle daughter, and she had just turned 9, and she's looking around, and she's already got these big eyes, and her eyes are just like so big, and she's smiling, and I could tell she loved it. She loved it, and she's looking around and still smiling, and with those big eyes, she says, "You know what? In like 10 years, this is all gonna be trash." And I'm like, ugh. And of course, as I took my shower this morning and looked at the stained grout all over my nails, Like, she was right. Like, forget putting a man on the moon or going to Mars. Can we just get grout that holds up? Like, the tile will last forever. It's the grout that's the problem. No. Like, the bathroom, it needed to be redone. It's called stewardship. You got to take care of your stuff. And so that's all fine to do. And there's nothing wrong with improving your house. But I'll just tell you, I remember feeling inside like, when this bathroom is done and it's like so fancy, like I'm gonna be a new person. Like, this is gonna do something for me. And of course, we all know that a bathroom doesn't have that power. It's nice to have a nice bathroom, but it does not have that kind of power to make your life meaningful. So what does? Let's look at John 10 again. Jesus is so clear here. He says, I am the gate. Whoever enters through me, who lives in me, moves in me, has their being in me, they will be saved. Not only will they be saved, but they'll be safe, they'll be secure. They'll be secure. Not just out here, but secure. They will come in and go out. They'll find pasture, like they'll live freely. Remember, the thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. But Jesus says, I have come that you might have life and have it to the full. I am the gate, Jesus says. What's he saying? What he's saying is that if we want fullness, if we want abundance, if we want to be able to come in and go out and find pasture, if we want a life that is truly meaningful and rich, a life that's secure, where we feel secure and at peace within ourselves and our relationships and the world around us, that he's the way. It comes through him. And that all starts, the Bible has this formula. It says that if you profess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and you believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, then you will be saved. And what does it mean to be saved? It's not just about heaven someday, but what that's saying is, if you believe in your heart this story that we've told today, that it's true, and if you profess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord, if you say that out loud to your Father in heaven, if you say that out loud to someone else on the way home, then things change for you in that moment, that suddenly Jesus' grave becomes your grave. That who you were, that's gone. And I don't know about you, but that's so good for me to know that I get a second and third and fourth chance at life, that I can leave behind my biggest failures, my biggest regrets, my biggest mistakes, that I don't have to be defined by those things anymore. When you believe in your heart that God raised Jesus from the dead, when you profess with your mouth that he is Lord, then his grave becomes your grave, and you're not defined by your past anymore. You're not held captive by your past anymore. Not only that, what it means to be saved, it means that Jesus' empty tomb, his resurrection becomes your resurrection. That means that starting today, you can be made new. A process of being made new, and not just new, but a process of being made whole and full. And you know what? This is for everybody here today. It's not by anything we've done. It's not by works. It's by faith. And so just by believing in your heart that this is true and professing with your mouth, you can have Jesus' grave be your grave. You can have his resurrection life be your resurrection life. You can begin to be made new. But I say it's a beginning. Because accepting Jesus, believing in Jesus is not where it stops. It's where it begins. I am the gate, Jesus says. I am the way, Jesus says. If you learn to live your life in me, if you learn to live your life through me, you want true abundance, you want freedom, you want goodness in your life, Jesus says, it's through me. Live in me, move in me. Pattern your life after mine. Do you know where I think we get this wrong? I know I do. So I'm gonna assume you're a little bit like me, is that we gather here on Easter and we celebrate the victory of Jesus' life over death. Right, that's what it's about, celebrating the victory of Jesus' life over death. A life, though, if we remember, that was not defined by the pursuit of comfort, A life that got uncomfortable consistently in order to serve you and me. A life that didn't pursue self-preservation, but a life that was willing to suffer and sacrifice in order to save you and me. And we gather and we celebrate that life and we honor that life and we say, what a good and true life, what a pure and noble life. And we say, he is risen. Right, we celebrate that this life is so pure and good and true and noble that even death couldn't hold it. And then we walk out of this place and we get caught up in living the vision of a life that looks nothing like his, right? We're like, thank you, Jesus, for life. And then we go and try to follow other examples that only have the power to steal, kill, and destroy. But what if we didn't do that this year, this Easter? What if we celebrate here, but we walk out of here and we say, you know what? I'm done digging for fool's gold. I'm done patterning my life off of the examples of other people who promise me things that can't actually deliver these things. I want to pattern my life after the one who was so alive that death could not hold him. I want to live in him. I want to move in him. I want to have my being in him. I want to live through him. He's the gate. Do you think maybe today you're ready to try a different kind of pursuit? A pursuit that might actually lead to life that is truly life. I'll give you a second to ponder it. Let's stand as we sing. So maybe if you're in a place today where you're like, yeah, I believe that's true, that anything I really need, any fullness I need, anything I'm lacking in my life, I'm not gonna find it anywhere outside of my Father in heaven, who's a good and generous Father. He takes care of the birds of the air and the plants of the field. He's gonna take care of me. And so maybe today is a day where you're like, you know what, I'm done. I want to recommit myself to pursuing the life that is truly life, a life patterned after Jesus, not digging for fool's gold or following any other example. If that's you today and you want to recommit yourself to that pursuit or commit yourself to that pursuit for the first time, because what you believe in your heart and profess with your mouth, it'll change your life. We're going to pray this together. I've got the L, together we'll pray the C. We pray today I stand changed in the light of your death and resurrection, Lord. I am no longer a slave to sin or to fear. Thank you. By your grace, I am a free child of God. Together, help me seek first your kingdom, Lord Jesus. All around me, I see the world pursuing the idols of comfort, fame, safety, power, and beauty. Lead me away from those empty pursuits and bind my heart to you alone. Help me seek first your kingdom, Lord Jesus. Guard my life against anything that would seek to steal, kill, or destroy me. Give me the courage to live set apart, following you alone, Jesus, as my only vision, the way to fullness, now and forever. Help me seek first your kingdom, Lord Jesus. Keep praying that as we sing.
Seek first the kingdom and its treasures. Everything else it will be added. All that I'm needing, I know the Lord will provide. I know my God's not empty-handed. He gives us blessings upon blessings. I'm still believing.
Thank you for joining us this Easter at Pathfinder Church. If this is your first experience with us, I hope it's just the beginning. Your next step is to check out the links in the description below, or you can go to pathfinderstl.org. If you want to listen to more Pathfinder messages, you can check out our message podcast on Spotify or anywhere you get your podcasts, so you can listen anywhere, anytime to all of our past messages. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube to help you stay up to date. And if this message meant something to you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. This is a special year for us here at Pathfinder Church, too. This is our 175th anniversary, and we'd love for you to be a part of what comes next. You can learn more at pathfinderstl.org. Finally, if you'd like to support our ministry with a gift, you can do so at pathfinderstl.org/giving. It's your generosity that fuels our work here at Pathfinder. And thank you so much for joining us, and happy Easter. And one last time, He is risen. He is risen indeed. Hallelujah.